Hello and welcome to another week of GK Icon. Thank you again for your questions this week. I hear the stand has been fantastic, as it always is. I was at Tame personally this week and it was great to see the guys working there, working really hard and really good standard. I've got a few questions to answer this week, some excellent questions as always. The three that I'm going to answer this week, the first one from Julie Pentland was in regards to when defenders come short to get the ball from playing out from goal kicks. Now, we've seen a real shift in certainly the last few years, where goalkeepers, certainly makes me sound old now, but in my day, it was very much going long, kicking pretty much 90% of everything long. Very rarely do you play out from the back. Now, the way in which football's changed, teams want to keep possession, they want to build attack, so playing out is key. And certainly for a young goalkeeper, if you can get into the habit of playing out and playing out effectively, then it's very worthwhile. The problem can be, of course, when defenders come deep, the opposition will also follow them. It's trying to find ways in which you can play out effectively. Now, the problem that Julie mentioned was that defenders almost coming in line with the goalkeeper, which is an issue, because if you go to play out to a defender, they're under pressure and they play it back to you, you can be in a worse position than you were initially with the goal kick, having to hook the ball down the line and being under that much more pressure with a moving ball as opposed to a still ball. Now, something we used to do when I was at Brentford, it was always looking to find space. So it's more so for the defenders than the goalkeeper, but trying to find inventive ways in which they might peel off, come back, look for that short pass, and for the goalkeeper to then offer a good option if they do need to come back to you, which then can move the play around you so that you might be able to find another pass and play out effectively. So that's certainly one bit that I would advise. But yes, with the defenders coming level, if they've got time, it's fine. If they haven't, then I don't recommend it, because it can be that much more difficult for the goalkeeper if they do have to receive a back pass and play out from there. So always look to be a little bit inventive, work with the defenders as best you can, and if they can create space and you can play out, and goalkeepers in time, if you can start to clip it to fullbacks, clip it to wingers, that might take a little bit of time, but if you can get that, like the likes of Ederson, De Gea, and some of these other guys, it's such a powerful weapon to have now. So thank you for that question, Julie. Another question from Oliver O'Hara was also linked to defence and the defence dropping. Now, I'm sure we've all experienced this, where you're in goal, it might be a free kick, it might be that they're attacking, and the defence drops, and before you know it, they feel like you're on your feet. Now, there's so many problems with this. If it's a shot from distance and you've got defenders, it could take a deflection. You might be put off by the fact that you've only got defenders a few yards ahead of you, and it can impede what you're doing. We need to keep the defenders as high as we possibly can. It's the same with a free kick. If a free kick comes into the box from out wide and the defenders are stood on our toes, it can make it that much harder to come for the cross, because you're dealing with the opposition as well as your own defenders, which of course will make it a much more difficult cross to take. So the key is, as best as possible, you keep your defence as high as you possibly can. This will mean that every now and then you will get offside decisions. It will give you much more space to operate and make your life that much easier as a goalkeeper. The big question is this your responsibility, or is it the manager's responsibility? I believe a bit of both. I think the manager needs to be strong and in training, work on this kind of thing where you keep the defence as high as you possibly can. But then also as a goalkeeper, be really assertive. Let your defenders know what you want them to do. And if they're not doing it, tell them. This doesn't mean screaming and shouting, but being really assertive in your commands to say, get up, hold, squeeze. Get that line as far away from you as you possibly can, at a reasonable distance, so that you can have that high line, give yourself space to operate and make your life that much easier. So it's a bit of both. If you feel that they're coming deeper and deeper, do speak to the manager and make it known. And I'm sure he will agree that a higher line is a much more effective line. So thank you for that question. The last question was in regards to how you can protect your hands. I know that goalkeepers, we get injured from time to time, and I've certainly got, and if you can see my crazy fingers and other bits that I've had plenty of injuries, that it is part of the position. You're going to pick up the odd injury. You have to be brave to be a goalkeeper. Now, there are things you can do to limit the amount of injuries that you get. So certainly stretching before a session, doing what's called prehab to make sure the muscles are ready to go and do what you're about to do. Sometimes certain injuries will happen, certain impact injuries you will get. But when it comes to the hands, there are things you can do. Even stress balls, and stress balls are very good for strengthening fingers, strengthening hands, and then a lot of it will come down to the correct technique. So work with your GK Icon coach on getting the correct technique. Now, providing you do that, it should be a really soft impact when the ball comes into you. It should be a cushion as it comes in, as opposed to that hard hand that might give you the odd injury, that might hurt the odd finger if you catch it incorrectly. So it's a mixture of technique, and it's a mixture of strengthening the hands, strengthening the wrists, and preparing yourself for the work that you're going to have to do as a goalkeeper. And it's the same with other positions and other techniques as well. If you're going to throw the ball, work on your shoulders, work on your chest. If you're going to kick the ball, work on your thighs, work on your glutes, work on your hamstrings. There's stuff you can do to make sure that you're in a position to do these techniques effectively. So thanks again for your questions. Keep them coming. If you've got any more questions this week, simply email them to us. The link will be at the bottom of the email. Email them to us and I will answer them next week.